Yeah, welcome, guys. I think first things first. If I can get you to introduce yourself, maybe a bit about your background and kind of who you are, what you do. Go for
Ladies first.
it.
Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is it's Chiara, and I'm Italian. Probably you could hear from my accent, and who I am and what I'm doing. So I have a background in art history, so everything for me as my degree, let's say, started from there, and then slowly I started discovering more about spiritual practices, especially when I was studying in university, because I was quite stressed with exams and everything, and I needed something to, relax myself. And my mom is a yoga teacher, and also she's an Ayurvedic therapist, so she started telling me, oh, maybe you should start practice yoga. And that started in 2006 and 2005 maybe. And then after my degree I moved to Ireland, and I started actually my spiritual journey there. I found Ireland an amazing land and a spiritual land, and I met a lot of different yoga teachers, other spiritual practices, dance, meditation and whatever. And then I started traveling in Thailand for 5 months, and I did my first ever training in spirituality, or what you would call like holistic therapy, in Chiang Mai, and I started studying Thai massage, which was quite a spiritual. The whole experience was very much connected with yoga and meditation and chanting, and it was a very beautiful experience. Then I did a lot of different trainings till I went in India in 2014, and I became a yoga teacher.
Nice.
And from there I started teaching. Then I met Peter while I was teaching my first ever yoga class in India. I met Peter. That's how we met. And he was my student. And then from there, I after giving birth of my daughter, I discovered womb yoga and anything related with women therapy. Yeah. And so I started diving into the feminine power and the feminine Shakti awakening, let's call it. And now I'm a menstrual cycle therapy, and I follow women with every difficulties that they have correlated to their menstrual cycle, fertility, pregnancy, and so on.
Nice.
So I think I said...
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Pete, what about yourself?
So as Chiara was saying, yeah, she kind of introduced me to yoga and actually the whole spiritual world, as it were. So before I went to India to do my first yoga lesson, I spent a year in Australia basically just getting boozed up, trying to find myself in that way. And then I got to India and everything just kind of took a 180 flip, and Chiara showed me into yoga. I suffered a lot from sciatica in my back, and I had very, very limited movement in my body, really, for someone of 24, 25 years old. And then from there, I carried on my yoga journey. I did training in Yoga Nidra, which is a type of relaxation meditation lying down. And the beautiful part is whoever does Yoga Nidra doesn't need to do anything. They just lie down, and the work all comes from the practitioner. And also while we were in India, we did level Reiki 1 and 2. And then I came back to England and did my Reiki Masters. So I became a Reiki Master. I've done lots of courses of meditation as well, and it was this year. It seems a long time ago with the whole coronavirus in between, but the beginning of this year, we were in India, and I did my yoga teacher training in Vinyasa and Hatha Yoga, so I'm qualified teacher as well. And that's really it for me. So I any teaching of yoga or anything as yet, but this year's actually really helped me just to strengthen my own practice in both yoga and meditations. It's been a blessing in that way. Yeah.
So I mean,
and also, yeah, I used to run men's groups as well. So that was another thing that we used to do. And I believe, you know, Kieran used to come to the men's groups that we had in.
I was going to bring that up. So I mean, because I found it quite nice and unique that you almost kind of, you really embody that kind of feminine and masculine as a couple. And I guess my first real question is that by chance? Was that kind of it just felt right? Was that part of a plan? Because obviously I mean I went to the man's circle, and I really enjoyed, you know, I really enjoyed that when I had time to go. That was, you know, I really enjoyed kind of embracing that manliness. And I know that there's like the Man Clan, for instance, in the States, with Casey, that's growing, and there's all these different circles, and there's women's circles. Do you think why do you think they're growing in popularity? And obviously, you know, was it by chance that you started these groups?
So I think, like, to the beginning, Chiara kind of fitted in with how she had the women's groups and everything else. When we got back from India, it kind of just happened that way. And I'll be honest, I used to go to them at the end because I knew, you know, to find a bit of spiritual connection.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I thought, do you know what, there needs to be this for men as well, because men, I think, especially in the past few years, have gone through a big spiritual change and a spiritual evolution. And for them, there was a part missing, especially me. I was like, I need something for the men. And that's when I, myself, and David, the guy that we set the men's group up with, we had the same feeling. And we realized very soon after we did the first men's group, there was a lot of men who were needing this. So I think for that, we just kind of fell into that sense where, you know, Chiara had her women's circles and still has now. And then there was just that need for the men as well. So it just naturally happened that way.
I think also since we met, this balance between feminine and masculine just happened for us. Because in a way, before meeting Peter, before knowing Peter, I was just a yogic in a way. So I was just practicing yoga, actually quite a dynamic type of yoga. And since we met, and since we had Viola, we had Viola in a very different way, let's say. So she was in what's the word? Well, she came unexpectedly while we were traveling in Rishikesh. And so I felt the need, since I was pregnant, to be surrounded by women. And although I've done before in my life, I've done a women's circle, I felt I really needed to also to share these feelings with other women. And I found also, because I'm quite, even though I'm a woman, I'm quite masculine, more masculine energy. And Peter is actually more connected with his feminine energy. Sometimes even more than me. The one that cries,
it's me.
It's him. And I found with the creation of Viola, in a way, these whole things really started. So the feminine and the masculine work between the two of us, and then sharing also this with others. But it comes from a need, like a need of connecting and sharing.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I kind of see that in, you know, a lot of different industries as well. There's this real need. Like, I'll give you an example. I realized the other day that I've probably spent 2/3 of my life in a gym. Not necessarily because it's you know, a place where you go and work out. It's almost just like that kind of that tribe. It's a place that you go where there's like-minded people. And this last lockdown that's happened in the UK, when that gym was taken away, I do feel, especially with mental health, it suffers dramatically, because you're taken out of that tribe mentality. And I think the amount of disconnect in the world right now, I think what you may find is people kind of drive into these circles a lot more, like you said, because there's that need, and I think the need will just keep growing and growing. You know, a lot of guys especially don't know how to be a positive masculine role model, a positive masculine person. You know, it's just man, woman, and it's very superficial. Is there anything that you kind of, when you go into, say for instance, the woman's circle, for instance, is there anything that you try and get across to other women? Like, let me reword that. What are the characteristics of the feminine energy, and what are the characteristics of the masculine energy that we're trying to promote?
So I think for the women's circle, there is a real need for women to share what's happening inside of us.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking first physically, and then I'll speak about the energy, because I think it's all interlinked. And many women comes to me and go to women's circle because they actually have a physical problem, which is sometimes menstruation, painful menstruation, PMS, PMDD, and a lot of different symptoms that they are kind of defined as hormonal imbalancing. Okay, and we don't know how, many women don't know how to deal with them, and they just think that they're getting crazy, or you know, all of these kind of things, and there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
The problem is, the core of the problem is that we don't know who we are as women, because we always been found, you know, we always been told that what we have as, you know, the menstrual bleed, the cycle, and our womb is something that we need to hide, we need to feel ashamed of. And so there is a real need to rediscover as a woman who we really are. And we can do this just sharing together what we're going through. And I found in the last 5 years that I've been sharing this work, that just even talking about how we feel, and actually it's all normal that we feel in these different ways every week, because we're 4 different women in a month, because our cycle, we are cyclical beings, and nobody told us this, okay? So that's the need, that's the physical need for a woman to gather together. And then the feminine energies that we are discovering through this work is that we are emotional. We are emotional beings. Like the feminine energy, also called Shakti energies in Sanskrit, is about creativity, is about emotion, is about connecting with the earth. Also, it's very important, the connection with the earth is about fluidity, is about connecting with the elements. It's about letting ourselves go with instinctuality, which we don't have in this society. And also we try to find a balance with these energies, because there might be a bit too much imbalance in feminine energy, so the woman can really think straight. So that's how it comes, the masculine energy. It comes to embody this alignment. So let's say the feminine energies are very wavy and they go everywhere, and then they come the masculine energy to actually bring the alignments back. Yeah. And what we are teaching, both of us, in the men's circle and the women's circle, to bring balance in these both energies, because women might have too much unbalancing in the feminine energies, and men, they might have an imbalance in the masculine energies. And that's where it comes Peter, because I found that he embodies this very masculine and feminine energy at the same time, that he can actually share and put in contact the men, let's say, with their emotions.
And I think that's really important. And like you were saying earlier, Kieran, was like the separation that we have at the minute between people, and like we need to come together and talk about this. And actually, when you're in a group, be it a women's group or a men's group, you find that a lot of men or women are going through the same thing as you.
Yeah.
So you think you're all alone, and especially men, we could be very much in our heads where we're kind of logically thinking about things and how they work and everything else like that. And then actually when you're in a group of, 10, 15 men and you sit there and go, I've got this problem, and then you'll see a lot of heads going like this, they're shaking, and you go, oh no, not in the head, sorry. And then you realize that you're not alone. And I think this is a wonderful thing when the men's circles and the women's circles, and we've also done like unity circles where you bring the men and the women together, and that takes it to another level again. You kind of, both of the female and male energies coming together like that is amazing. It really is.
Actually, there is a lot of work to do in unity, because we found that actually for women now it's very easy to share with other women, but then when it comes the masculine, the male into the equation, thank you, the energy shift again. So we need to actually bring balance and heal that division as well.
Yeah, it's funny. I used to run these type 2 diabetes prevention groups, and they're a mixture of people, but there was this one group, and by chance only the guys turned up, and there was like 5 women on the list. They just happened not to turn up that day. And the conversation, and bear in mind, I spend a year with these people, the conversation that shifts is amazing. And when you ask, and these are all older guys, these are 50, 60, 70, some are in their 80s, the conversation shifts. And when you ask them why they're able to talk so openly now, it's not because women aren't present, it's because there's no fear of judgment. And it's that judgment. And I know this, firsthand as a guy. I guess you're judged all your life. And I was watching. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy, and there was this comedian I was watching the other day who kind of started hitting the nail on the head in a superficial way, but it gets the point across, where he was saying when a woman meets a man, the male friends to the guy always ask, what does she look like? Whereas when the woman's friends meet the woman, they're always like, what does he do? So they're not interested in what he looks like, they're interested in what he provides. What does he bring? Does he make you better? Does he give you security? Does he give you all these things? And I think with males, if they don't know who they are as a person or where they fit into the world, then this kind of judgment kind of then goes through the roof, or perceived judgment goes through the roof.
Exactly. Yeah, I think
that's why
perceived judgment, isn't it? So
yeah, and I think that's why kind of the circles work really well. And this was my experience, going to your circle, Pete, that I felt I could say stuff, and bear in mind that every part of my being was saying, do not share. Share, because of that judgment. And I can safely say now, it was like the first time I stood up to do a presentation in front of a whole bunch of people. Okay, I was nervous, I was sweating, and like I said, every part of my being did not want to share, to the point where it hurt my bones. That's to describe it. But as soon as you do, and as soon as it happens, as soon as it kind of goes out there into that circle, and you realize actually it ain't so bad, and everyone seems to be on the same wavelength, and everyone seems to have the same problems as me. There's this almost like the clouds part and the weight is lifted, and it's a case of release.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's what I really like about the circles, and I think there's a lot to benefit, and
it's a great medicine behind sharing. There is, because since when I started as well, for me it was really difficult to share, and then it was like almost 10 years ago, everything was in my head. And then, as you said, you realize that we are going through the same things. And especially with women, I used to teach women yoga every Monday morning, and for the last year and a half. It was very interesting how the women, they weren't really coming, well, they were coming for the yoga, but mainly what they found the real benefit was actually to share how they felt, and realizing that actually, you know, there is a woman next to me to the circle that she's going through menopause, and actually she just shared what I was feeling, you know. And then you see these ladies, they're just lifting their like their perspective, and they're like, oh, okay, so this is not just me. And you know, I don't talk about menopause, I don't talk about also, you know, losing a baby, maybe a miscarriage, or all these taboos that we can talk about it. And in these places, because you feel safe and there's no judgments, and we actually allow ourselves just to be, and to whatever feels, and honor what we feel in that moment, actually we realize that we are going through the same things, and we are human beings, and we have emotions, and, you know, and we find a real support from that, because actually society now is trying to divide us, even before the coronavirus, now I think even more. And there is so much need of feeling this connection.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess going on from connection, when we're looking at spiritual practice, well, I guess, and again, this is a real open question, how did you guys develop your own spiritual practice? And I guess, what does spirituality mean to you?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Well, mic drop it. I'm done. So for me, I've always been drawn towards the meditation side of any practice. So even with the yoga, you know, when I started the classes with Chiara, probably about 3 or 4 weeks afterwards, I did a Vipassana course. Together, we did a course together, and the Vipassana is, for those who don't know, it's quite intense, or very intense. It's 10 days. You're completely in silence. You're segregated, men and women. You end up doing about 12 to 16 hours of meditation a day, seated. So it is intense, but from that, I found my spiritual practice. And for me, that was trying to find my true self. Like, what is, in yoga, we call it the Atman, or the soul, or wherever you know, whatever resonates with you, but it's that within inside you that never changes. And for me, that's the practice that I've kind of been going down, is using the meditation, but also using the yoga. The yoga, you can use that through the yoga philosophy and the practices that you can do throughout the day, in everyday life, off the yoga mat, that help you to find your true self, or rediscover your true self, because it's always there, but we lose it underneath the piles of the society that piles on us and everything else. But that's
about like the stuff that we do off mat. What have you got? Some examples?
So so in the yoga philosophy, it's called the yamas and niyamas. So these are basically disciplines that we can do on ourselves. So like being truthful, not stealing, and these sort of, it's general moral compasses that we have, but we kind of forget them. So it's just coming back to these, thousands of years old practices, to what we really know inside of us anyway. When we're going to steal a car, we know it's bad, but we do it anyway, because there's that part of us that, the part of the brain that's like, do it. But when we take a step back, we go, well, someone's going to be upset that they've got their car missing now, etc.
It's also about not reacting, more than, stealing, or I found that through meditation, and first I started it, for example, for me, through a physical practice, and then I arrived to a more of a spiritual practice through that. I always been a very, like, people that know me when I was younger, I always said I wasn't believing in anything. For me, like I didn't believe in a God or any religion. I wasn't associating with any religion. And since I started actually yoga, I found myself understanding that there is a little more. It's not just the physical, because things happening, and not just in the physical world, but you can feel that there is energies around you. And so you kind of drawn back inwards, and you observe from the inside. So the world on the outside changes as well through that. And so you're able to not react and observe before reacting. And then I found this an amazing thing that changes completely your whole life. And so many women or men that they have difficulties in, stress related, anger related, or any emotion, it's because we've never been taught to go inside ourselves and to listen first, but just be in our mind and react from there, react from the judgment of the mind, instead of like listening from inside of us, our heart, or however you want to call it. Then the physical, like the practice, I found even for us changes in every different stages of our life. As I said before, it was very physical for me, and then I started discovering crystals, Reiki, and now we're actually working a lot with color therapy and a type of therapy that is called aura soma. So every year, every phase of our lives is more connecting with something that it will improve us to understand us better and who we are. So I found that in every stage is, yes, meditation is always there, yoga is always there, and then there are a lot of things around. But what we have found, because now there are a lot of therapies out there, a lot of gurus, how you want to call it, that they teach you the truth. Actually, the truth is it's inside of us. So something that for me now is very important, that you can pay any courses, you can pay, like how they can teach you, many different techniques, but we all have this inside. We all have this power inside of us. And that's, I think it's the very most important thing that we should know.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think, the old saying, go within or go without, is kind of more apt these days. It's funny, with regards to that spiritual practice, or the spiritual journey, I should say. On the last podcast, I had a psychiatrist who is also doing a side qualification in psychotherapy, and he's a very smart guy, a medical doctor, but he was saying it's about the person first and foremost. And what he meant was, he was talking about the shortcomings of the medical industry, about the pharmacology. That it's not about that. It's about, for someone with a condition, for instance, about treating that whole person. And we got into a conversation about accepting yourself. And I guess I wish someone had told me many years ago, and because this is what happened, for myself, was accepting the shadow self, accepting the darkness. Because we're taught in, I went to a Catholic school, and you basically taught in a Catholic school, and this isn't I'm not slating Catholics, by the way, but you're kind of taught to kind of almost repress that, whereas you shouldn't necessarily repress it. You shouldn't necessarily act on these dark thoughts, but it's part of you, and it's about accepting and moving forward with it. And I think as soon as I did that, it was a game changer. Because as soon as you repress it, I can only speak from a guy's perspective, but there's feelings of guilt and shame. You're like, am I the only one who kind of experiences these thoughts or these feelings, and you kind of taught that you are the only one who experiences this. And coming back to the circles, when you come into that circle, you start connecting, you start sharing, you're like, oh, everyone here thinks the same nonsense that I do. Oh, okay, cool. I'm not bonkers. I'm, you know, that guilt and that shame suddenly start dissolving. And I think for me, the spiritual practice or that spiritual journey is about starting to accept you for who you are, warts and all, everything you are, and then move forward. And that translates into the physical.
I think that's for me the beauty of the Vipassana meditation, because as Chiara says, you get the observer, you become the observer. So you are accepting everything exactly as it is, exactly not how you want it to be, not how you wish it to be, you know, not how you know. But and then from that point, it does change. It just instantly changes, spontaneously changes.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of brought up in this world where everything has to be good, and you know, you look at you're looking through your Instagram and your Facebook, and everything's all perfectly done and everything looks wonderful, and you just, well, that's not actually what reality is, you know. And people are now, no, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people have this like warped vision of what reality is or should be. That it has to be pretty imperfect, and but it's, you know, that's when you come on the inside and you start realizing your own reality. It has you kind of get that power back again for you. You regain your power.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. It's funny that you said about shadow work, because I just did a moon circle the other night on Monday night, and we actually did, the whole circle was about shadow work, because it was also a lunar eclipse, and where when there is a shadow into the moon with women especially, but with everyone, we connected with this shadow, so this energy that is hiding inside of us in the corner of our hearts that we don't wanna, sometimes we hide in there, you know, our little voice, our inside voice hides in that shadows, and we push it away, or we repress it, or we don't want to see it. And that's the beauty of this work, is actually going there and discover that little, I'll see it as a little girl or a little boy hiding because he's scared or they're scared. And that's for me how I visualize this voice or this inner feeling that we try to hide. And that's where actually the power, that's where is our power, is within that, you know, hiding corners that we are ashamed of speaking. And, you know, we talk a lot about sexuality. We are going deep into sexuality as well, because that's where we find the most shameful parts of us. And last night, I'm studying a lot recently about sexuality and sacred sexuality, and how it is important as well to make sex and the whole act sacred and important. And my teacher last night was saying, you know, we need to think about our parents, and I'm gonna say something very strong now, but I'm just gonna say it. And you know, that think about your parents having sex and create you.
Yeah.
But that's where we need to actually make peace with that, because it's actually an amazing act of love where we are coming from.
Yeah.
And if we can make peace with that, we can make peace with all the feeling ashamed of that. And usually, because we are working like with, especially with the tantric energy, sexual energy, healing this part, it kind of like whatever we feel sometimes about sexuality or anything related about this theme and this subject, comes from our parents, come from our lineage, come from, you know, our fathers and our mothers and great grandparents and so on. So it's very important to actually bring healing into this. And from there, that's the most shadow work we can do. And then from there, we can actually rise up and bring back into the light.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why do you think there is such still a taboo around, you know, sex, sexuality, and everything that it encompasses?
Yeah, Kieran, you've opened up a can of worms there, my friend.
Well, there is a taboo. Well, I mean,
I think it's the sexualization that's happened. Again, I keep banging on about society. I'm for it, but against it as well. But it's the sexualization that happened, you know. So, for example, about the periods, when you're looking at for tampons or pads, they have to use blue liquid because people might be offended by the red liquid for the blood. Then there's a sexualization to sell basically everything, you know, anything. If you want to sell it, you just put a scantily dressed woman in front of the product, and then it sells. You know, they say the sex sells. But this is not the true sexual nature. This is not the true sexual energy. This is like a very lower frequency energy. And the Tantra is kind of bringing that lower energy and then taking it up into the higher chakras, into the higher realms and the higher consciousness. And then that's where the true magic happens.
That's why they're hiding, and that's why it's a taboo, because it's actually the most powerful thing that we can experience if we really experience it correctly. But we have such a distorted image of sexuality. We are sexual beings. We live and we are born as sexual beings. And sexual, I mean, you know, life force, energy that in different tradition is called, in Chinese is called the qi, in yoga is called prana, and so on. So we are that, and unfortunately, society is trying to take our power away from us.
Yeah.
Telling us that we need something outside of us to actually be able to live.
Yeah.
But when we discover that, as I was saying before as well, that all our power is inside, and we can create, we can manifest, we can live through this knowledge, then all the pillars of society that we are living now, and especially with this coronavirus, you know, is gonna completely dismantle. And that's why they, as women, they've been taking the power from us, because they never told us how power we can have in our wombs as creativity and manifestation. Since I started this work, we have been manifesting incredible things in our lives, and we're still working on it. Of course, well, it's not that we are these gurus or anything. Actually, we're not. But you know, it's a journey of discovery from the inside.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, I guess with sexuality and everything it conveys, I think, you know, obviously, yes, our families have a role to play, society is a wider, but also, you know, things like religion for centuries has kind of repressed, especially with women, that kind of that powerful energy. You know, I guess my own thoughts are it's coming from fear, fear of what it could mean, what it could do. And I think the issue from that, though, is you get, especially like young lads, for instance, they then become curious about what that is. And now we have access to everything on the planet, including porn. And that's their access to what they believe, you know, sexual energy is. Oh, it's what they're doing, that very physical thing that isn't based in reality, that's what it is. And when you start, you know, talking in terms of sexuality and spirituality and, you know, this kind of ongoing practice, I think, yes, there's a lot of people that are becoming more aware, and they're like, wow, okay, I never knew what that could be. But you also have the polar opposite of, whoa, what are you talking about? I'm not trying to, you know, I don't want to be part of your cult and so on. You know, they have that kind of that mentality, and I think this is where you then get the the left wing, the right wing, and vegans and carnivores and so on and so on. You see what I mean? Like, if you look at any area, there's these polarized groups.
Absolutely.
I think things like sexuality, spirituality can really kind of unify and join together, which kind of brings me on to why. So you mentioned kind of, you know, you're yoga teachers, you know, you practice yoga, but what is it really about yoga that, you know, really draws you to it, and something you still practice and believe that other people should experience? I know the benefits personally, and I know what it does for me, but I could bang on about it all day, and, you know, people go, oh yeah, Kieran's going off on one again. But why is, yeah, I'm always curious to hear from other people, you know, why.
So for me, I started off doing yoga basically it was just on a physical level for me, because I had the sciatica. I couldn't even put my hands towards my knees when I bent over. I was that stiff in my body, in my legs and everything. So for me, it was a purely physical practice. But over time, and especially the way that the yoga philosophy works, and like they call it the Raja Yoga, so the 8 limbs of yoga, you go to a spiritual practice, whether you want it or not. it will eventually come around and bite you. So for me, yeah, it was just a physical practice. And then after doing the meditation, and the meditation obviously is a part of the yoga philosophy, so you get to a point where you do the physical practice in order to be able to sit for lengthy periods of time to meditate without, you know, having to move or having the body in pain. And then it just becomes to a spiritual practice. And then, you know, the more books that Chiara then lent me about the chakra system and all this other stuff, my mind was just blown. I was like, it just makes sense. You know, when you start doing the physical practice and you start getting to know your body again, you understand why the kind of spiritual side of the yoga makes sense to the physical side, and that they do go, you know, hand in hand with each other.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, I agree with everything that Peter said, and I've been thinking a lot about this, because yoga started me into my journey of discovery of myself and the power and spirituality, and it's always been there in every phases of my now almost 20 years of journey.
Yeah.
And it's very, because I think first of all it starts with your body. So the body is the vessel of other bodies, as we say in yoga. There's not just a physical body. You actually discover that other 4 bodies around you, that and whether you like it or not, you can feel them, and you discover them, and there's no coming back from there. And from there is just an incredible journey into who you are, and you discover that it's not just you, and you know, you're completely united with nature and other beings. And so it's something that, because it starts with the physical, opens up other different levels. I don't know even if I can explain myself very well in this, because it's just a feeling of, I was even thinking yesterday, you know, when you move your body and you don't move it for a long, like maybe, let's say for me, it was like 5 days, I didn't do a practice because we have a daughter, you know, life is coming in the way, and you realize how much you miss that after, you know, like you get really addicted to that in a good way. And then you want to share it with everyone. That's why I became a yoga teacher, because I was like, this is amazing. Why are we not practicing everyone all of this?
Yeah. No, you know, perfect. Yeah, both of you. It's I think when I speak to not just, you know, people who practice yoga, but any kind of, I guess, movement-based professional, I would say that's very, you know, encompassing along.
That is true, yeah.
they'll often say something very similar, you know, and I could be talking to a power lifter, and I could be talking to like a yoga professional or a practitioner, and they'll say something very similar. And I guess when you kind of delve into it, you realize actually our whole nervous system is built on movement. And there's often an example that's cited by a lot of, I read a lot of really random texts, and it's the sea squirt. Have you ever heard of the sea squirt?
No, I haven't.
No.
I'm curious now.
So the sea squirt is like this blobby, like jelly creature that has a nervous system, and it moves in the sea. And it connects to like a rock or something, and that's going to be its home for the rest of its life. And as soon as it connects, it eats its own brain. It eats its nervous system. And the point is, it doesn't have a use for it. It's never going to move.
Okay.
And when they've kind of delved into like the human anatomy and the kind of the brain, they realize actually, and you only have to, if you've got children like yourself, you only have to know that if you've got kids, the whole nervous system, the whole of the brain is built for movement and touch. Okay? That's it, movement and touch. The more you move when you're a child, the more you get hugged, the more you're embraced, the more intelligent, the more well-developed physically and mentally you are. And it doesn't matter what culture you're from, doesn't matter at all. Those are the main factors. And there's somewhere along the lines we lose that. And I think with yoga especially, and this is what I found, that it brought me a connection to things that I didn't know existed. So connection to the earth, a connection to that unsaid energy that's around. It's almost like, like the old school antennas on your TV. You kind of move it and then you find a picture and you're like, oh, that's what asana is. That's what it means to me. I'm moving into a position where I'm basically the antenna, and then all of a sudden I'll connect and go, oh, there it is.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, that's what it is. And then after that, if you went into like a meditation or breathing practice, you're then trying to almost fine tune that picture. That picture you've received, you're trying to embed that, focus on that, and kind of really kind of digest it.
But that's why they call it alignment, no? Because when you find that right alignment, you are there. You found it. You feel that muscle that you never felt before on a physical level. But then there is also something that is kind of like a click inside yourself that you're like, wow, and you really say wow. And that's why I think I keep practicing yoga, is because you want to feel that sensation, and the sensation of feeling alive and more connected.
I agree. I guess just kind of to start, I guess closing the conversation up, but I really want, I guess, listeners to kind of take some real kind of juicy bits away with them, things that they can put into practice today. So as professionals, what could be the top tips for someone today to either enhance their life or kind of improve their spiritual practice? What could someone go away and do, I guess, now?
I think the most important thing is it doesn't matter how much you practice a day, but it makes important to practice every day. Whether that be just even a 5-minute quick stretch in the morning is better than staying extra 5 minutes in bed. Just like that regularity is for me what really helps. So when I did the Vipassana last February, I carried on so Vipassana, you sit 2 hours a day once you go and do your home practice. So I managed to keep that up for a year. Wow. And now I do an hour a day now. But doing the 2 hours a day, it gives you that discipline, and that's when you see the results. When you start doing even like I say, 5 minutes a day, you're going to notice the results at the end of the month much more. Not just in a physical way, but you're going to notice it in the change of your mood, your change of even what you start noticing what you're eating and all this other stuff. It all kind of falls into one another. So a lot of people think that yoga is just a physical practice that you're jumping on the mat, but it ripples out, it's the start of the ripple, and then it ripples out into every aspect of your life. So that's what I would suggest, is just practice. And even if you've got to practice now, that you do maybe 20 minutes a day, try and up that to half an hour. And again, you're going to get extra hour a week you're getting in practice wise.
Yeah.
So.
Nice consistency. Cool.
And can I say for my woman perspective,
Yeah,
what all women should do is start tracking their cycle and start knowing their cycle. And if they don't know how to do it or what to do, there is plenty of information out there. And so just menstrual cycle awareness for a woman is very important, first of all. And connection with nature. Nature is our greatest teacher. So, if you don't have time to practice, and also Peter, I agree with what Peter said, even just going outside in nature, bare feet into the grass, and is also a very, it's a very important, I think, practice that we should, especially now for, immune system regeneration and improvement. And that's instead of being in a house, just go outside, walk, and connect with that. And yes, I would say, like, for somebody that is completely, new to all of these practices, something that what comes in my mind now, it's very simple, but very much effective.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. I'm a big fan of kind of getting feet on the earth and grounding. Yeah,
grounding is important, especially for women. Every woman should do that with their feet. Men and women.
Men and women. Everyone should. Yeah. There's like so many good health benefits now that are coming out, isn't it?
There's a growing amount of thing on it.
This is the thing that makes me, it does make me chuckle a little bit. Like, probably 10, 15 years ago, you would be called, even 50 years ago, you get called a hippie and everything else because you want to go and put your feet on the ground. But now, like, the evidence is coming out about the free electrons and everything else coming through the feet. It's amazing stuff,
Interestingly, the American Tour de France team 10 years ago was practicing grounding after each stage, but they didn't want to announce it for that reason, because they'd be called, because it'd be called an alternative therapy, hippies. But they were doing it then to enhance recovery. And this is an elite professional team.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about, anyway.
Yes.
I'll get off my high horse. So where can people find you, I guess, to maybe learn more, and if you've got any kind of circles coming up, and anything really, kind of let us have it.
Well, at the moment our website is a work in progress. So because we're also evolving and changing so much on what we do, that's almost it's difficult to keep up. but for sure they can find us on Facebook. You can find me as my work with women and women's circle as Chiara Luna. Chiara Luna, yoga and therapies. And I post all my events there. And because we just moved from England to Italy, we have been kind of readjusting our whole life. So I have a circle coming on for the next full moon, which is the 13th, I think. And but I will put everything on there, and then I'm gonna start sharing more of menstrual cycle therapy, which is a whole therapy of more than just knowing your cycle, but it's bringing healing into your alchemic, sexual woman, creative woman, and lineage. So anything that is related with our blood, basically, and our menstrual cycle, but not just that. So I'm gonna start sharing that very, very soon.
Fantastic.
And I'm on the old Instagram. So my name is yogi.pete. So Yogi Pete. It's just a new page that I've kind of to focus my yogic energies into.
Yeah.
So from there, I'll be offering, you know, little snippets of practices and of different pranayama, so breathing practices, and the asana practices. And then from there as well, I'll be offering, you know, online Reiki courses and meditation one-to-ones and a bit of spiritual counseling if anyone needs any of that. So that's
Fantastic.
from that.
Sounds great. Awesome. So thank you for joining me today, guys. I really appreciate your time, and anyone who gives kind of time to service is, you know, always has my respect. So thank you guys for that.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Chiara, for inviting us on.
Enjoy the rest of your day.